Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. We can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday. Is it? No, it's not. It's Wednesday. Oh, that's right. We had a holiday on Monday. Okay, well, hey, guys. We, for like the first time in forever, have some key levels, some technical action here that I really want to pay, or, that I really want to make note of here. So in the 10-year treasury, at 127 even, there is some pretty insane options interest down in there. If we were to breach the 127 level, the gamma hedging would be wild, right? So a drop below that level could be really crazy. But you can see here, they came like 4 ticks away from it and are bouncing pretty hard and recovering some of the overnight action. Note again that yesterday, analysts from Deutsche Bank, whatever, I don't know how to spell Deutsche, so every time I look at it, I'm typing it out, I'm like, douche bank? What the? No. They think that on the March Federal Reserve interest rate raise, that they'll raise it 50 basis points, or that it's possible. And the market has been trying to price that in. I must say, by the way, let me come over here. I think that one of the things that I've overestimated or that I've forgotten is that when you get like these flows that come in, banks or funds doing their thing, and maybe there's no informational content behind it, right? Like those can create significant moves. But when it's like the thing, like the trade comes in, it's like that's the highlight of the day and all the traders come in. That is just like one of the strongest things that there is. And so Treasuries just got demolished yesterday, right? Which was a bad thing for equities. Also a pretty sad day. And this yesterday is like the sort of stuff that scares me. Like really, is that slow and steady selling, man. Just that's what you want. You don't want to see that, right? And honestly, if this continues, and I mean that's kind of been the market lately. I've only seen this one other time in my life, and that was after the 2008 crisis. So oil, meanwhile, a fresh new high in the overnight action. So there's been some stuff about a pipeline exploding and being fixed and all of that. So I think they were kind of a rise, and then when they fixed it, they were okay. But oil is like the only safe haven, with Goldman Sachs getting creamed yesterday because, banks have been doing well because of raising interest rates. But if the banks are going to get creamed because of rising employee costs, then where else can you go? Well, oil has been the place. Natural gas kind of chilling out. There's also maybe we get something going in gold and silver. I have to say, like, the market seems to think that the Federal Reserve is like behind on this inflation thing and is going to have to catch up. So wouldn't that imply that gold should be going up if the rates are not going down fast enough? Or any kind of reprieve in rates should definitely result in gold moving up. So far, though, that hasn't been what we've been seeing. Gold is still just kind of in the range that it's been. So, but in this morning, at least, doing not so bad, and silver doing not so bad either. Copper doing well as well. So then we got to come over here to explain some of these moves, and we look at the dollar. And the dollar weakening a little bit in the overnight action, coming back below 95.5. Also, Bitcoin, well, there was a little bit of an attempt at trying to pump it up last night, but then this morning it already fallen back down. And I mean, they're definitely going to try and create a higher low kind of a bounce here, but again, the situation looks very precarious for Bitcoin. If they were to fail 40K, now of course that might take a long time. It really might do this bounce, and then a smaller bounce, and then smaller. It might take it because they just don't give up. Okay, these guys just don't give up. But a breach of 40K could trigger some selling, and the sentiment over there in Bitcoin is pretty bad right now. So okay, well, here in about 5 minutes, we are going to be getting some economic numbers that we want to take note of. We're going to get housing stats. We already got Morgan Stanley earnings. We should go and look at that. We also get Canadian CPI numbers. So, housing starts, building permits, Canadian CPI. So those are all important things that we want to look at. And then do we get, oh yes, we have a 20-year bond auction today. So that does not help us over in Treasury land. With the raising interest rates, we have to absorb some supply in the 20-year. And I think that's about it for us today. So what are the flows that we're anticipating to see? I do think we might see some reprieve flows or some buying off of that bounce of 127. We might see some continued selling from the market pricing in a 50 basis point raise in March. And we're going to see flows from these Canadian CPI numbers as well. Well, I sure hope that the equity indexes recover a little bit today. This is just, I mean, like my longer term, I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned about a recession, to be honest with you. I mean, it doesn't have to end in a recession, but the market action yesterday sure made it feel like that's what was going to happen, right? And of course, we trade, we adapt, and we take whatever the market throws at us. But for the larger population, you know, what's going on is not particularly good. So I hope that they do something. Iran is to pilot a central bank digital currency soon, says Cointelegraph. Okay. That'd be interesting to see. You know, the Chinese central bank digital currency, I haven't heard too much about it. Have you? I haven't heard too much about it. Kind of seems like they, no big deal, you know, like nobody's really actually using it. But if one of these central bank digital currencies becomes a big deal, at what point does the United States start to take note? Because a lot of the US's power has to do with its controls over monetary systems. And if you kind of have like these transfer systems that the United States can just like completely ban you from, and that really, really hurts countries. If countries can all of a sudden start doing it over digitally on their own, that could be a problem, right? Of course, what would probably happen is the West would probably just ban those currencies. I don't know. Meanwhile, another thing that has kind of been on my mind is that it just seems more and more like Russia really wants to invade Ukraine. So yesterday, I was seeing the NATO saying, "Hey, if you shoot down any of our satellites, that would be an act of war." So, like, I don't know. They seem to be getting some intelligence that they really seem to think that something's going to happen. All right, let's see what we got in here. New York Attorney General says she has new evidence that the Trump organization misled banks. Yeah, I'm sure. Those are small charges, to be honest with you. Russia wants to grab more land. I don't know. So here's something that I struggle with. Okay, with the whole Russia thing. Okay, frickin' Zero Hedge is like a Russian puppet on this thing sometimes. What was the last thing? Germany threatens to halt Nord Stream 2 if Russia attacks Ukraine. Okay, hey, that's maybe positive for the West, a positive development. But when you go in and you read it, uh, they keep feeling like, oh, the West is like warmongering and Russia doesn't want to do anything, and I don't know, man. It does seem to me, if I were to blame, like, why is it happening? I think that Nord Stream is probably a part of it. Like, the oil pipelines is probably a part of it. Well, I think that what happens at Zero Hedge is most of the content they don't actually make. I mean, like Tyler Durden, he's like the name on all of the posts, but most of them were written by other people. And oftentimes you'll see the website, right? So what I think they're doing is they will post information from Chinese media or Russian media. Like they're trying to show the other side of it so that you can be more informed. But what it ends up being is it ends up being just a Chinese propaganda mouthpiece, or a Russian propaganda mouthpiece in this case. Okay, so we had a pretty strong move up at the top of the hour in the treasuries that is coming back really hard. Like they left a huge bubble behind them and they're just collapsing back into it. Oh, I didn't even see the numbers. What's wrong with me? Okay, so the Canadian number doesn't look so good. Okay, so housing starts change was 1.4 versus a negative 1.7, so that's probably why we're declining here in yields. And what about building permits? Whoa, building permits 9.1 versus negative spot 8. Yeah, that'll do it. Canadian CPI, or no, yeah, Canadian CPI. Where is it? Month over month negative spot 1. Okay, so Canadian inflation doesn't look like too complicated or too big of a deal. Yeah, but why do you care about what some guy in Asia says about complicated topics like finance? Well, first of all, I don't think that Tyler Durden is from Asia, is he? It's just annoying to go in and read that sort of stuff because uh, you basically, when you look at this situation, it's impossible for me to know what's really going on over there, right? Like from my perspective, it's like, wow, Russia is going to invade Ukraine, and I cannot see a single good reason why they would do that. And the whole thing just seems absolutely crazy to me. And then when I think, well, maybe that's because my government is not really being forthright with me about their claims and problems and why they're acting that way. And then when I go and I read that their kind of side of the story, I just get this kind of nonsense propaganda that's basically like, oh, the West is so stupid, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't really give, it's kind of like, well, probably because they don't have a very good reason to actually invade. But I suspect that the whole pipeline issue is probably a significant factor. So, a pretty strong selling flow that's come through here. I think that I want to just kind of sit and watch here for a little bit. Did I say hi GT350? I think I did. Let's say it again. Hi GT350. Russia went straight into Crimea without asking anybody. It's a good point, but I'm in the instance of Crimea. Well, and maybe it is really is just that simple. In Crimea, there was a very significant geopolitical strategic reason to do it. Right? They needed the port. I don't know. that was like, and this again is why I become frustrated, because when that I remember when that happened. I mean, this was long before the stream and when we really got involved in markets, so I don't know how markets would react to it, but I remember, you know, commenting about it on Reddit or Dig or whatever it was at the time, and just like it was so confusing. You just We had no clue what was actually going on, and there was no Western media in those areas either. So it was, Putin did say years ago that he would not unite the Soviet Union. I'm not sure if that's why he wants to do it. Like it is kind of crazy. In this instance, Ukraine does not want to be a part of Russia. They just straight up don't. But and the line that Russia tries to push is, oh, but there's these right wing extremists over there are being bad, and we can't allow them to be in control. That's what they say. Hard bounce there. Hmm. Sure. So I'm seeing some steepening on this move overall. So even as um, yields are backing off and the treasuries are moving up, particularly in the 30-year end of the curve is kind of lagging behind. In case it hits the fan and the U.S. goes bankrupt, would they close the futures markets, or can we still scalp the U.S. markets out of existence? I so there is anytime that there is a severe economic crisis, there is always a possibility that they will close the exchange for a few days, and that is something that we never think about as retail traders, and that we should probably consider. If Congress had not gotten their act together when they did, I think that it was probably extremely likely that they would have done that during the COVID crisis. They could have closed the exchange, right? I think that we were only a few days away from them closing the exchange. But this whole thing of like shit hits the fan and the US goes bankrupt, if something like that happened, it certainly would cause some economic damage and everything, but I don't think that it would be the sort of all at once cataclysmic disaster that you probably think about in your head. So just as an example, you know that countries default. It's there's quite a lot of historical precedents for countries defaulting. Okay, obviously not the U.S. defaulting. The U.S. defaulting is a very different thing. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying countries have defaulted before. Okay, so back in the 80s, for instance, Mexico defaulted, and there was a lot. So Ray Dalio talks about this. Um, he predicted this, that these countries were going to default and that they weren't going to be able to pay it back. And so he thought that it was just going to lead to an economic catastrophe. And when Mexico defaulted, that was like the low in the market. So he was all going short and just got demolished and lost everything off of that. So just remember that it's not going to be like the US just one day out of nowhere defaults, right? It's going to be a slow moving thing that the markets will adjust to and will have to deal with. So it wouldn't be like the financial apocalypse, right? It would be bad. It would certainly be bad, but we would probably still be trading. And who knows how they would deal with that? I don't know. I don't know how they would deal with it. It would certainly be devastating to the economy, but it's probably not going to be an all at once apocalypse. Nothing to worry about. China will bail us out. Yeah, there you go. Or maybe I actually think there's a really good chance that if something like that happened, that I don't know. This is, you're talking about something that is beyond my uh I'm not that smart to be able to know what would happen. But what if a bunch of countries got together and all forgave each other's debts or something like that? Like there could be some sort of mass debt forgiveness event. I don't know. I don't think we're anywhere close to that, you know. We're going to be well, you're still fairly young, right, Nasdaq cat killer, so you'll be in your prime and I'll be an old man by the time that happens. That's something that's still maybe 10, 20 years away if that ever happened. The Great Reset, yeah. That's what they would call it, the Great Reset. For sure. Hmm. So there's some interesting back and forth here in the 10-year at 13. Well, it found in this particular case, I'm not sure if it's so much of a liquidity hole as it is just balance, but they seem to be trading into each other here, though. The system would break, because credit system would break because more is owed than is being generated. Yeah. Which kind of makes you wonder. Because in order for a situation like that to happen, there has to be a breakdown in our system somewhere, right? Like somebody was given debt that they shouldn't have been given, essentially, at that point, right? What do you think of silver moves the last couple of days? Well, so when we go back to the chart here, I kind of only just mentioned it in passing because I hadn't looked at it all that hard, but there was a pretty strong up move in silver. And I don't know if there was any fundamental reason for that. I do think that silver has been lagging relative to gold for quite some time. So I'm not surprised to see silver make a little move up and try and come back to more in balance with it. You can kind of see when you compare the two of them together, since this larger up move that we had back in November, right? That silver was kind of lagging because they got hit harder and they're recovering a little bit more. But I am kind of looking at this whole situation thinking, I understand that when interest rates rise, that silver and gold get hammered, okay? But at some point, if you're saying that they're not raising fast enough, that inflation is higher than what the Federal Reserve can keep up with, you have to see gold and silver move. So when we had all of that action yesterday, and silver and gold were just kind of chilling, that kind of made me think, well, maybe they're overreacting. I don't know. Just because the kind of news that they had and everything, it kind of seems like something that would cause some trade in silver and gold, and we didn't see that. Longer term, so I don't know what silver and gold are going to do anymore. There was a time where I thought I knew. There was a time where I thought I knew that silver and gold were over the long run going to rise and that you want to be in it, right? Since then, it's just confounded me. I'm not sure if they're ever going to deal with this rise in interest rates positively, and that silver and gold will end up being the inflation hedge that it's supposed to be. But I think from a larger portfolio perspective, it makes a lot of sense to have it still. I think from a larger portfolio perspective, it makes a lot of sense to have it because, I mean, man, look at this market yesterday. It was just an absolute bloodbath. Where do you go? Jim Cramer always says there's always a bull market somewhere. The only place that I saw yesterday that was doing well was oil, right? It's materials, because financials typically do well in a rising interest rate environment, but they got slammed yesterday because of the rising costs of talent. So that leaves you with energy and materials, right? So And of course, gold is a great trade and everything, but you got to be diversified beyond just oil because there's risks with oils too. I'm reading this book by a PhD on oil trade. Oh, I would like to hear about that. Anything? Is it talk about fundamentals in oil? This is kind of some interesting back and forth here, but they did kind of fall out of that kind of range that they were stuck in. I will let you know. Well, so at some point, I think that there's a possibility of things kind of going awry. Maybe we do see that the Federal Reserve actions causes a recession, and we run into kind of like a Federal Reserve kind of needs to lower interest rates to boost up the economy, but they can't, and inflation is still running rampant, and maybe then gold and silver do better. So I think in the longer term perspective that having gold is still a good idea, but in terms of like what do I think is going to move right now, or that I have information that suggests that it's going to move right now, I don't have anything like that in silver gold. I hope it goes up. In oil, I there's some very clear indications that oil wants to continue higher, right? There are a lot of bets being placed now that oil is going to go to, that WTI is going to go to $100 a barrel, and I traded as such, and I've been, I caught an amazing options trade off of it. Wish that I had caught the wish that I had caught the futures trade, but oh well. It was I was certainly well beyond, I was certainly unmatched in that one, right? Like I didn't, what is the way to put up to it? I was just not up to the task on that trade, even though I think we were, generally speaking, we were right on oil. Gallup, Joe Biden's job approval rating drops 8 net points. Wow, falling to 40.56. Worst approval of his presidency. Donald Trump's approval on Gallup at the end of January of 2017 was 39.57. So it actually was slightly worse. Oh, that's interesting. Well, I am in an ETF that is physical silver, but I don't actually have any like in my house or anything. So there was some big trades that happened here at 12 half, 13 area. Pretty big sells, in fact, but big limit buyers willing to take it. So it's going to be very interesting where they go from here. I do still suspect that the treasuries are going to get a breather here. When the economy collapses, the ETFs do too. I think that the financial world underestimates the risk of ETFs. Really do. Well, I mean, right now, just as an example, right now, there are definitely, you can definitely see what is the word that we want to put, like wide divergences within the index. You know what I mean? Hold on. ECB's Villeroy is speaking right now. Okay, so like right now, well, over the last month it's kind of changed, but let's go back to the beginning of the year, right? S&P 500 was like close to all-time highs, right? Or they were making new all-time highs, or were close to it, right? But the average stock in the S&P 500 was actually down 30 to 40%. So it was only a small number of big companies that were keeping things up. Okay, so in that particular instance, that's a very positive thing for people that hold indexes, right? That because you held the index, you did better than if you were trying to play individual stocks. Okay, so there can be a really big divergence between those individual stocks and the indexes. Okay, and I'm just suggesting that that dynamic can flip in the other direction to where, you know, if those big companies like Apple are down, and I really think that Apple is buoyed up by the index and isn't worth as much as it, you know, as it is right now. There's some, you know, market's not informationally efficient. And in that instance, then you could very much see indexes get creamed. I think also that you could see that sort of a dynamic play out for a very long time period. So there could be, you know, multiple years where people that are in the indexes make nothing, but people that are playing individual stocks still do okay, right? So I think even though, you know, if you're the average person, you don't know a whole lot about finance, you don't want to manage your portfolio. Like, the smartest thing to do is to just buy index funds in your 401k, right? I don't think that most people max out their 401k, so I don't know. I have a friend that really nice girl, and she has picked up like um teaching basic finance sort of stuff on Instagram. And so her thing is basically like, you should be investing in index funds and things like that, which is again, for like the average person. Apparently a lot of millennials are not even contributing to their 401k, which is very concerning to me, right? Right. That's what you should do. That is the best choice. But if you want to have fun and you're willing to take those risks and you're going to manage your money, I think that there is something to be said about perhaps the market not realizing the risks in having everything in an ETF, right? Now, how can the earnings impact the ES and the bonds? Well, you can already see that they are, right, Anwar? The S&P 500 earnings haven't been so good, especially for banks, and it's kind of been hurting equities, right? An interesting thing that we should note here is that the average company in the S&P 500 outperforms analyst estimates. Isn't that weird? How is that possible? That on average the stocks outperform. Our analysts are too cautious or something? I don't know. It's kind of weird. But the point being, it's been I don't think I've ever seen a situation where earnings season was like just absolutely dismal and really hurt the market. But it's definitely definitely gonna see individual companies. Earnings season is definitely a place where I think that you could see a lot of mispricing, because there's still a lot of stocks out there that are just like way higher than they should be, right? The whole spiel with gold is you can wake up under China's rule as an American and still dig up a country agnostic money from your back. I'm not sure if that's really. I mean, obviously there's people that are investing in it for that reason. I don't think that you have to go that crazy in order to think that it's a good idea to have a little bit of gold in your portfolio. Okay. But it's the same thing with Bitcoin. Like look, I am obviously not a very big fan of cryptocurrency, right? There are some situations where I think it makes sense to hold it. Not right now, but there are some situations. Unfortunately, I don't think that Bitcoin will go quite the same way as gold. Obviously, it will probably always be there in some form or another, but I'm really seeing the public turn against Bitcoin, and it's really affecting price, right? And when price isn't going up, then that kind of like ruins the whole reason to have it, because the only reason to be in Bitcoin is the number goes up, right? And their inability to become an actual transaction medium has really hurt them, and I think will prevent them from ever really becoming as a super long-term consistent thing like gold. Like, in my opinion, Bitcoin will not be a major asset class 100 years from now. And especially when they've mined out all of the blocks, you might, weird things will start happening at Bitcoin probably. Ooh. Thank you very much. Lone Comic on Twitter says, great new video on order flow in the Santa Fe model, Seth. Thank you. I'm glad that people got it, because I was kind of afraid that the video was a little bit too like amorphous for people. I'm trying to show you, here's a model. I'm hoping that you go and read about the model, and then you turn around and you say, okay, how can I try and apply this when I'm trading? And then I gave some like anecdotal experience about how we tend to see the markets behave and when those different forces change. Yeah. There's no limit as to the supply of how many cryptos there are or could be. You made garlic out of a coin. Yeah, I did just see NQ go there. It might have been some earnings. Oh boy, what did Tim Pool say? Oh, someone I know who was triple vax just got COVID was like, no, that's not how it works, Tim. It's not 100% efficacy. So, if it's 95% effective, there's still going to be 5 people that it doesn't work for, and you probably know at least one of them. I don't see. I did see Bank of America profit surges as loan growth inches higher. So it may have been some earnings is probably the most likely culprit. So one of the people I follow on Twitter, Glenn Greenwald, who was kind of one of my canaries in the coal mine for the left. He's become a content creator recently. He has like a YouTube channel, and he does a video, and I'm sure it's good, but it's like I can't pay attention for that long, right? But it's really interesting to watch his evolution as a content creator. It's really fun for me to watch other people become content creators and what they try to do and stuff. Oh, here we go. Wall Street Journal has an article about the Activision deal. Let's read this real quick here. Yes, Microsoft now has a subscription-based game business called Game Pass and is developing a cloud gaming service. I really am not a fan of cloud gaming, to be honest. Former is doing well with more than 25 million subscribers to date, while the latter is still a work in progress. Both will ultimately require blah, 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 blah. Assuming the property isn't permanently damaged, and the deal also assumes Microsoft can oversee fixes to Activision's culture. And that's not as smart of a take on it. They didn't really say anything that people that are familiar with Activision don't already know. It will still take some deft handling to keep Activision's self-inflicted wounds from festering on its soon-to-be owner. Well, I tell you what you got to do. You got to fire Bobby Kotick. The deal is pointless if you don't fire Bobby Kotick. That's just the way it is. Okay, so there was quite a bit of wrangling around there. The 5-year did just move up and kind of has found a it's still in a range, but it's a slightly higher range. So that the 30 and the 10 just kind of came back to where they were. Very much the 30-year is kind of lagging still. So again, we're seeing some steepening. Let's see here. I feel like I had seen something else that we wanted to talk about. Stability or inflation? Which will the Fed choose? Neither. U.S. Treasuries bounce off critical support. Yes, they caught that one. Okay, cool. Okay. Oh, there's a good tick up in the 10-year. I did see like the rise in equities and everything, but it wasn't that significant. Since the news at the bottom of the hour, haven't seen too many huge moves quite yet. Gold and silver still look pretty good. Gold and silver probably the most interesting ones right now. Like when it comes to like relative volume, relative interest. Oh, corn. What's going on in corn? You know what? This should be ZC corn futures. If it will load it. There we go. Well, that's interesting. The AMA relative volume is telling me that something is going on in corn, but not really doing anything. When I look at the top of my, this market analyzer list is super, super nice. The treasuries are at the top. Copper is also doing well, so copper's doing really well today, in fact. Oops, wrong window. This window. Well, I'm not doing terrible, but feels like a lot of took a lot of heat to only be making one tick out of it now. This Ukraine president discussed preparations for the NATO summit in June with national NATO Secretary General and Ukraine's possible participation in it. Okay. Well, I'm looking at this. I think that if we're going to see like a technical bounce here in ES, there's certainly plenty of room to move up, but they had a pretty good bounce in the overnight action overall anyways. So here at this point where it's kind of a good time to think about if we might want to do something like a sim trade in the equity indexes. I'm not sure if I see like a super strong reason to take it here. But the price is okay. So there you can see the 30-year is still dragging on them here. That move didn't really move the whole curve up. It just steepened it more. speaking of our video yesterday, let's go and see how well it did. So it was tracking pretty well. You guys left, by the way, NASDAQ Killer, you left a bunch of comments. This is good. We're now that we're getting comments, I guess the next thing is we got to start work on like comments that create like back and forth discussion. Maybe I need to make more controversial videos. You're taking 24 units this semester? Wow, dude. Dude, why if I was taking 24 units, I would be. I can help with that, says Uzi. Well, make sure you go leave a comment on on yesterday's video. Oops. What did I just do there? Wrong button. Studio. Information impact takes time to sink in. Okay, let's see here. Oh, we got 169 views in the first day. That is tracking higher than the other ones, I think. Is that the best performing order flow video so far? Normally what's been happening though is I didn't like go and post it in places until the day after. But I'm much more interested in trying to get the search engine traffic to my main website. So that kind of was like, okay, we'll just do it right now. What's the click-through rate? Wow, okay. At some points, the click-through rate was really good, which kind of suggests that the thumbnail did better. But we'll need to see, like, what was the average for the day? It was probably still 5%, which is still pretty average. And we did get a lot of the traffic did come from posting it on Reddit. So, well, another little push down there. Don't see any. Well, 6J came down a little bit, maybe. So on Reddit, you know what's interesting about Reddit is that I'll post my videos on Reddit. When I post it on Reddit, the day trading subreddit always downvotes it. Always. Look at that. Oh, there was actually a comment on it, but they were shadow banned. Whoever was commented on my post is shadow banned. Oh, I can't see the little thing that tells you what. Oh, there you go. 29% upvoted. So, like, how do you get 29? Okay, wait. Is 29 divisible by anything? 29 is not a prime number, right? Oh, maybe it is a prime number. 29 is a prime number. Whoa. Okay, so that means that it has to be like 100 people voted on it and like most of them downvoted it. Well, that could just be fudging the numbers. It might be fudging the numbers so that robots can't tell. So it might not actually be 29%. But like multiple people are downvoting it for like why? For like no reason. When I go to the futures trading subreddit, they're fine. It's fine. You get like 4 upvotes. But I feel like I'm like being intentionally downvoted on the day trading subreddit. Because honestly, so much bullshit gets posted on the day trading subreddit. I don't understand why they upvote such trash content and then like you get real stuff and they downvote it. It's like so weird. But like the thing that's crazy about it is that I still get, people will still follow me on Reddit and I'll still get tons of click-throughs. Even though it's like 0 karma. What's with that? What's with that? Seems to me something's going on there that I'm being intentionally downvoted. No one cares about order flow. You got to brag a little about your profits, your car, the quality of the food you eat. People want to see you success. Yeah. People really respond to value signaling. It's a thing. I don't understand it at all, but it's a thing. Dude, so if you go to the day trading subreddit though, like let's see, what does the top here? The top post right now with 127 comments says, "What kind of candle is this? Who cares? It looks like a candle." I tell you what, though, this one next to it is an inside bar. So maybe somebody would say, it's an inside bar and then the breakout, and that's why it moved up so far. Or maybe it's just random. I don't know. Yeah. Uzi says, I make good profits, eat pizza rolls, and drive a 12-year-old car. Lol, right. The comments always make me vomit, says YouTube Finance. I do see some crazy stuff on the subreddit. Should we read what they're talking about and make fun of it? I don't want to be mean. Let's make sure we got financial juices there. I don't like being mean, but I mean, I can't help it. A red one. Ah! Oh, the top comment. That's great. It's a red candle. Oh man. He thinks that it means something. Selling pressure stepped in when price got too hot. It's a scented candle. I'm glad that a lot of people are like who you know. I don't think that the person that posts it will understand though. Like, probably doesn't mean anything. What makes you think that it means anything? Nobody wants to read numbers out of their word book. That's true. But I don't think that I swear I've seen order flow material on the day trading subreddit before. A bad one. See, everybody's trying to say like what the candle means. Nobody is coming in there saying, how do you know that it means that it's anything? Maybe it's just a random artifact. I mean, heck. Oh, look, here you go. There's the top post right there. They're asking about cryptocurrencies and they want to know what this means in the order book. Okay, so there's a post about order flow, right? 14 upvotes. But if we come into the comments here and we look at, okay, 82% upvoted. So if it's 82% and it's 15, then let's see here. 18%, right? 15. Oh, wait. 15 divided by 0.88, right? No, 0.8. So there was 18 total upvotes and 3 of them were downvotes. In a world of idiots, even a man of average intelligence is considered a moron by majority vote. The basic principle of what people are attracted to: money, food, and girls. Well, so there's, I think we can take a couple of takes on this. Number one, just because that's the easiest way to get people's attention doesn't mean that it's the only way to get people's attention, right? Number two, we have to consider the kind of audience that we're trying to attract. Because if we just attract a bunch of idiots, that doesn't really help us all that much, does it? I tell you what, I have in the past been able to find large audiences for things, right? I've, been able to make a video go viral on TikTok before. I've been able to get videos to go front page on Dig or whatever, like I've been trying the social media game for a while. And kind of what I find is that when you appeal to the lowest common denominator and you build an audience on that, you just end up buying an audience that's worthless. It's more like a graft, but that's crypto, not futures. And I still not so sure it explains why it gets downvoted. It seems to me like if you post anything, okay, if I went and I made a post on Reddit with a picture of candlesticks and stuff, I bet you it would still get downvoted. There's a good move right there in the 10-year. That moved up very quickly. And the 30-year coming along there too. It's called gaslighting, says DLA. Well, let's see what the people in it say. They just say it's volume. They're just giving like the most basic answer they can. Thanks, guys. Totally helpful. Oh my gosh, what the heck? Oh, you know what? I think that the battery ran out, huh? Yeah. That sucks. Oh, that's the first time that happened. But I didn't have it plugged in overnight, so I gotta come. Gosh. Oh, that's freaking hilarious, man. Oh, okay. Activate. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That didn't get rid of it. I thought that if I deactivated the camera that it would make it go away, but it's not. It's just stuck there. Oh. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna have to move this over here. Oh man. That was unflattering. Right? Oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure that okay, it is charging. It's marginless. Man, I just so this the thing that one thing that I really do not like about the Sony A7 IV is that you can plug it in with the USB and you can power it through the USB, but it does not in fact power it indefinitely. It does not in fact power it indefinitely. It prolongs the life, but apparently the camera uses more energy than gets supplied by the USB cable. Pull that out. Make things look a little neater. Sorry, you can't see my lovely face. I know that you all care about that. I guess we get to have a use, a good test case of how well does the stream do if you don't have to look at me? Because there's definitely some streams that do pretty well and you can't see the streamer's face. Man, we can bring it back if we want. That is so funny. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. Yeah, normally I have it plugged in all night, but I didn't have it plugged in. I guess maybe I need to buy a second battery, huh? How much are batteries for the A7? The official battery from Best Buy is not cheap. Oh, that's what I need. I need the $350 vertical battery grip. Yeah. That would fix our problem. Nah, I just got to remember that to keep it plugged in. Okay, so we did see a good little, should we call it a stop run? I don't know if we're really getting to a stop run yet. because the trend has been down so much, if we do start to get a good uptrend here, we could see some fun stuff, right? So that's what you tend to get when you have like such a systemic short based on the market. Joe Biden has stumbled to a job approval rating that's almost identical to that of his predecessor, and the context for this numbers is worth considering. Wonder if there's a liquidity gap between the overnight close and the open on ES? Well, you can never really I don't think that you can really look at the overnight action and kind of judge that sort of a thing. There's definitely seems to be a tendency for them to try and fill gaps, but I don't know if that's what the cause of that is. I've never seen any research about that. Other than that, my own research kind of says that it usually happens, but it's like it's fat-tailed like anything else. Okay. Well, look at that. Volume hitting in the 5-year. Jeez. Should have taken it on this one. I would have only have made like 3 more ticks more, so no big deal. Look at that. Buyers held that pretty well. So that gives you a really good setup for a yeah. And the offers pulling, that gives you a pretty good level break setup. Like you can just and I don't know in the context, I don't think that we could say that this is a trend up day, so probably 50-50 whether you take it, but the trade would be hitting into 15.5 and maybe trying to take it off at 16 or 16.5. Let's see if they tick up how much pulls off at 16, right? 16 was a price that we spent quite a bit of time at yesterday on the profile, right? Where is it? Let me come back here. Well, the most volume occurred at 22, but yeah, 16 was like the bottom of that range, kind of like where they ended at. Yeah, I'm starting to get some more activity on Twitter here now. Just a few minutes before the open. Well, for fun's sake, let's take a position in ES and try and play the open. Yeah, we'll buy it and see if the S&P 500 probably has a sell first, just to screw us up. Just to screw us up. DWAC short interest is 259 million. That's 3.65 million shares shorted, 12% of the float. Oh, that could be ugly. Then they're continuing to rise. Morgan Stanley reports disappointing revenues while stock jumps on subdued banker pay. That's really interesting to me that the market cares that much about the pay. Renter Nation strikes as multifamily units spark surge in U.S. housing starts. Okay, so let's read that real quick. Despite rising rates, weakening sentiment, and Omicron anxiety, housing starts and building permits unexpectedly surged in December. Starts jumped 1.4% month over month, and permits soared 9.1% month over month, crushing expectations of a modest 0.8% drop. This is the third straight month of increasing starts and permits and the biggest monthly jump in building permits since July of 2020. The total building permits for 2021 hit 1.873 million and starts rose to 1.702 million. Multifamily permits jumped to 675K in December, up from 563K and the highest on record. Single family units starts down modestly from 1.199 in November, but not too far from the all-time highs. Multifamily starts surged from 461 to 524K, which was an all-time high and second highest on record. The silver lining of all of this, a surge in rental units in the pipeline with record multifamily rental housing units, second highest multifamily housing starts, should help reverse the trend in record rents. Warrior Trading has 700K in his thumbnail. It's true. I'm not gonna do it. I mean, look, if I was coming in here and I was taking excessive risks and, I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars from doing that or from front running my viewers, I would certainly be tempted to try and use that to help promote the channel. But, we're just making $10. So you know what's the one that kills me? Is there are some creators who will not be named. Don't name them in chat. That they've been making money from taking on excessive risk, but they've been doing it with not sim accounts, but with combine accounts. They've been doing it with combines. I'm sitting here like, if you've had so much success and you can make that much, why don't you do it with your own account? This is something that when I started out, because I started out and I was trading a combine, wasn't anything to me. But now that I trade my own account, and when I lose money, when I lose $1,000 trading oil, that's $1,000. It's gone, right? And you don't get it back. And if you blow the account is just blown. You can't just go and, spend $100 and get the account to come back again. You have to go completely refund the account with another $1,500 or whatever, right? And now it's like it's really hard for me to. Why don't you risk your own money? Ross is legit, or is he using his students to pump and then dump on them? So I don't know. I mean, I can't prove it. It seems to me, or at least what everybody says that he's using his students to pump and dump. But I don't know, how would you prove that, right? Yeah, I haven't heard anybody talk about Ross in a long time. It's funny. Dude, well, I don't think that he necessarily pulls in millions, but he pulls in hundreds of thousands but then he loses hundreds of thousands. Combine versus own count, the rules, the style of the strategy are poles apart. Well, I suppose. But like, that's kind of the whole thing, is that if you're doing it with a combine account, and you're not willing to do it with your own money, that kind of says something about your strategy, doesn't it? it kind of means that you're taking risks that you wouldn't really want to take with your own money, which is kind of crazy. Wow, did he really make 8 million in 2021? How do you know that? Is that like what he reported his profits were? Or, I mean, from YouTube, he probably makes 2 million just from YouTube. He has no, okay. If you say so. I bet you that he probably makes millions of dollars just from YouTube. And then when you put all of the courses and everything else that they make, yeah. I mean, it scales up awfully quick. That's the thing that's really insane. Like, yeah, or we're talking about where you're trading right now. So I know that for like me, so we changed things. I have the indicator package now, and it used to be a subscription, but we changed it to just one time $100. Okay, which I think is a good deal. I've been getting people, they really want me to convert it to another platform, and as much as I really want to do it, I don't really feel like that's appropriate for me right now, because it would mean me like splitting my attention, because first I want to focus on making content right now. But then second, it's like I have to support multiple platforms and put all that development into another platform. I don't know if I have the time for that, or if I'd be able to do it as well, because I understand the Ninja Trader ecosystem a lot more. Okay. But it's $100. So anytime that somebody comes in and purchases it, and I do it through PayPal, it's $100. That scales up really quickly when a lot of people do it. Um, 10 people do it, that's $1,000. And how many customers do you think that Ross Cameron has had, right? He's probably getting a few dozen people buying his course every month, and his course is like thousands of dollars, right? Like, the money that people, creators, can make from that sort of a setup can get insane. So the question is, how much did he make from trading? Because one of the things that I've seen, and it's just like this with most YouTube day traders that become popular, is that they will make tons and then they'll lose tons, right? I don't think this has kind of always been the great, what's the word? The thing that really grinds my gears. Yep. How much did he actually make trading? I don't know. I don't. You know what? I don't pay attention to other creators in the space anymore. I don't care. I mean, there's other creators in the space that I definitely respect and everything. And I'm definitely the kind of person that thinks that being cooperative is better, and but I also just don't really see a creator that has the same kind of approach to it as I do, right? Like, and the thing that bothers me in particular is that there's a lot of these people out there that appear to be making some pretty good money from their trading, or at least, they make it look like they're making some pretty good money from their trading. And I don't think that they appropriately stress the amount of risk that is necessary for them to do what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's really hard to say, because anyone can put up a thumbnail that says $3,000 in 3 minutes. What? Yeah, it's exactly. Like, for our channel to have gotten to 7,000 subscribers now, I think, right? We're above 7,000 subscribers without ever having to use any of those tricks in our thumbnails about, promising people money and stuff like that. I think is an accomplishment that I'm very proud of. Sometimes, like last week, I was getting kind of a little angsty about it, It's like, man, what do I got to do here? But you know what? We made a couple of changes to our thumbnails, our video that we put out this past week. We're doing really, really good. You know, it's like, yeah, you can get an audience that does that, but wouldn't you rather have an audience that is smart and knows what they're doing and is actually interested in real trading and isn't just a bunch of degenerate gamblers? Not that there's anything wrong with those of you that are degenerate gamblers, but you know, I would put. Let me put it this way: if there was going to do a trading contest of some sort, I would put you guys up against any other channels. You know, like what was the average percentage gain per viewer over a month period? I'd put you guys up against anybody. You're it's a smarter audience than some of these bigger channels. And honestly, I think that a lot of these channels have a bunch of people that are going in and taking really, really um, uh, inadvisable risks. Inadvisable risks, and they don't realize how much risk they're taking on to do what they're doing. It's one of the biggest problems in this space. Is people will go in, they'll see somebody making money, and they'll be like, oh, okay, I need to trade the way that they do. They don't realize how much risk they're taking on doing that, and then they blow their account. And I see people do it over and over and over again, and they always think that it's like, well, I did something wrong that I shouldn't have done. I was impulsive, yada, yada, yada. And really what's ruining them is the risk, right? And I see that with some of these creators too. There's some creators that, they put these really big numbers up and then they'll blow the account, in like 1 week, they blow the account. And they'll be honest about it, which is good. Oh man. Okay. So we're seeing some really strong liquidity placed up here on the bid. So think about those order flow conditions video that we were talking about. When we see an increase in the overall liquidity in the market, that suggests that there are some large players at play here. That is something that we need to take note of. This is turning into a really strong trend. I don't now the other side of this would probably be somewhere around 22. So the 10 years still kind of has room to move if they want to. But those 4Ks there is something we should take note of. Now, if they push down through it, and all of those pulled, then that would be spoofing, and then we should be really pissed, right? Anyways, there are some of these creators I've seen, they'll make, thousands of dollars a day or whatever on their Combine accounts, and then twice a year they blow the account, and they'll be honest with people about it and everything, and they'll make videos. But I'm just sitting here like, you don't realize that all of your profits are coming from taking on risk. Otherwise, you wouldn't keep doing it that way. Or, I don't know, you would approach it differently. But I mean, I guess that's probably part of why I do what I do as well, is that, like, I understand that a very significant portion of the profits that I get is from taking on risk. And I don't want to be, like, luring people into taking on those same kinds of risks. And I know that I'm going to have periods that I do really, really poorly, because that's just the nature of risk. And so if you build your whole persona on, always doing well, then when you come into a hard period, what's going to happen? Right. And anybody that's serious, that's been in the space for a really long time and knows what's going on, they're not going to take you seriously. And those are the people that I care about, is the people that are really going to trade and are going to trade for years and years and years and truly get good at it. And not necessarily the large swath of people. Now, I do want to go after that large swath of people, but by teaching them things about the markets, not by luring them in with promises of easy money, right? So the moral of that is that if you have NinjaTrader 8, you should go and buy my indicator package for $100. Thank you very much. There you go. I have learned the most from Seth than most. Trading fraternity is legit as well. Seems transparent. Thank you so much, Jay. I appreciate it. And you have been around for a while, huh? It's been actually more than a few years, hasn't it? It's kind of getting, we're kind of getting to the point where it kind of gets crazy to think about how long the channel has actually been around. We've definitely seen plenty of situations and creators and all sorts of other things come and go, and we're just still here. I've honestly so many times. Oh man, there's a lot of talk in the YouTube creating community about burnout, and I definitely see it. There are times where I just really don't feel like doing it anymore. I don't know why. Like those periods, it's like it's just kind of a thing for a day or two, and then like I get over it. But yeah, I watched when you didn't comment much. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Were you there before we were even live streaming? And I didn't have anybody to talk to, so I didn't even necessarily say a ton. Yeah. Oh man. You're done for the day, Nasdaq killer? Well, that was good. We got a good move in ES. I'm kind of looking at it here. I don't know if I want to keep these on forever or not. It's only 742, so. Oh yeah, okay, so you have been from the very beginning. It's kind of crazy to me to think that it was like I made a YouTube channel and I didn't live stream it. It was just recorded and then I uploaded it later. Like thinking about that now, that just seems so weird. But that was the world back then. Streaming wasn't a huge thing yet. Hmm. Okay, so even though they put a lot of really good liquidity behind here, there's a lot of liquidity in front of us now at 17, and they're shying away from it. The 30-year has definitely come up, but I don't think that the 30-year has still not yet actually breached those highs. So, there could be another leg of this possibly. Yes, coming almost giving up all of those profits that I made in MES. That's sad, but I haven't been paying attention to it at all. So. Bloomberg says it sure seems weird that Democrats are forcing a Senate vote over the filibuster. That seems certain to doom their democracy legislation. Actually, writes JB View, it makes good political sense. Oh boy. Okay. How are you going to try and. The potential political advantages outweigh the drawbacks? The most obvious reason is that the entire party wants them to. My guess is that at least 40 of the 50 Senate Democrats are eager to demonstrate their support for voting rights. Okay. Then there are Manchin and Siema. Neither of them seem at all reticent in their support. Yeah, okay. Democrats who face tough re-election campaigns in 2022, such as Mark Kelly in Arizona, Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire, Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada, and Raphael Warnock in Georgia, would probably prefer to vote only on popular measures that have broad bipartisan support. But neither filibuster reform nor the underlying voting rights legislation strike me as something. Well, I think that this guy is dead wrong about that. This vote could single-handedly lose them the next election. Opposition to voting rights. Okay, so I take a big issue with calling it voting rights legislation because everybody has the right to vote. This is a federal takeover of elections. the many Democrat states have more strict voting rules than what they want to have happen. So are you telling me that people don't have voting rights in those Democrat states? Don't be silly. Mm-mm-mm-mm. All in all, what Schumer and the Democrats are doing doesn't seem puzzling to me. Sienna's behavior does, but given where she stands, there's no reason for Democrats to help her evade a vote that she appears perfectly happy to take. Sometimes there are worse things than losing a vote. Oh man, I tell you what, this guy is does not realize how deep in the Democrat bubble he is. Only people that can actually do that. That's another one. Is I tell you what, we could have made the channel so much larger by playing to the cryptocurrency crowd. But every time that I started making cryptocurrency content and I saw the kind of audience that it was like drawing in, I just couldn't stand it. I said, nope, I don't want that to be my audience. Red states are the targets, blue states are just about, yeah, it's 100%. Yeah. Let me tell you something. If you were to poll the United States public right now, I think that you would find more people are concerned about the accuracy of elections than they are about how easy it is to vote. Okay. The having to have an ID to vote in particular is an issue that is really starting to go. Like it used to be that generally speaking, there was more support for voter IDs, but the Democrats really, really disapproved. And there was a really big partisan split on that. Now, when you go and you look at some of the polling results on it, it's like nobody takes the no voter ID thing seriously anymore. It's like everybody knows that Democrats just don't want it because it will make it harder for them to commit voter fraud. I just like the majority of African American or blacks, I guess this is the proper term we use nowadays, right? But sorry, in the 90s you had to say African American, but apparently that's not the correct thing to say anymore. The majority of blacks support voter ID. Is just like nobody takes it seriously. And I think that a lot of people understand this whole thing, that it's really what they're trying to do is they're trying to modify the rules to make it easier for them to win, and not necessarily because people's rights are being infringed or anything. Yep, the idea is flooding states with unsolicited mail-in ballots with no chain of custody and drop boxes on every corner. Well, so remember we talked about this a lot before the election, didn't we, Uzi? Remember that whole discussion where we were saying it seems to me that the changes that are being made to election laws to help with COVID are in favor of Democrats, but it's not always quite that simple, right? Because it tends to help the party that's out of power at the time, or in that state rather. So after, now that we went through the election and we've had time to digest it, did it swing the election? I kind of feel like it did. I think that in Arizona in particular, that if they hadn't changed the election laws in Arizona and Pennsylvania, that the vote might have turned out differently. I think we can't say for sure, but the margin of error is so small that something like that definitely could have made a difference. Yeah. Also, more votes than any president in history, but my voting votes. Right? Oh man, I never even thought about it that way. Holy crap! I haven't heard anybody say that. They know that if we federalize the elections, that we're a one-party state. Well, I think that federalizing elections is probably only just a small step in what they actually want to accomplish. Democrats probably don't think that federalizing elections swings the vote a huge percentage, because they ultimately they think that just some people have been discouraged from voting, and that they'll come out and they'll get that, and that if everybody votes that should vote or has the ability to vote, that they would win. And I don't think that they believe that like cements their power or anything like that. But what I think that Democrats want to do in the larger picture is that they want to go back to federal funding of elections, right? They're taking it to a place where the power of incumbents becomes more entrenched. Is really what they're moving towards. The power of incumbents is entrenched, and whoever has the advertising. I don't think that people think about it like that very often, but the Democrat Party, they know they have a lot of domination in the media sphere, and if you set the election system up into just a contest in the media to whoever gets the most favorable media coverage, Democrats always win, and that's what they're really moving towards. There's a reason they dominated the prison, because, well, I don't know if we can prove that one. Certainly concerned about it. I wish it was more clear. It sure is frustrating when you think that you see evidence of wrongdoing, you know? You see evidence of a crime, and because it is a partisan issue, the crime doesn't get properly investigated, you know? I find that incredibly frustrating. Well, the reason I say I can't prove that is because if we it had absolutely 100% proven that, then somebody would be in jail for it, and that didn't happen, right? No, I mean I admit it's awfully suspicious. We all know it, but I can't prove I can't send somebody to jail with that. But that probably those votes were like vote harvested. They probably are like legitimate votes and people, but it was like they went to the door here, vote for the president, and then they move on. Yep. Yep. It was ballot harvesting. I don't know. Republicans can ballot harvest too, but I'm not a fan of ballot harvesting at all. Yep. And it's not just the ballot harvesting, it's also like the uh, what is it? Like, when you can just like drop it off somewhere, you know? And then like what is the chain of custody for things? I have real problems with that. Yeah. I don't know. So tell me though, guys, what was when you voted in the 2020 election, what was the system that your local area had set up? So for me, there was one polling location in the entire county, and basically they took over the fairgrounds, and the kind of like the indoor stadium that they have for the fairgrounds there, you know, is kind of set up in a way that cars can drive in and out of it quite easily. So it was basically you would drive into that stadium, and then they had like a bunch of polling stations set up for the cars, and you'd drive up to your polling station and you'd vote through the car, and then they took it. And that's how they did it in my county. Did they do anything similar to that for you guys? It was more secure. I don't know. What was more secure than some some of the things that I've heard about? Rather, what I mean. Nothing changed in your county? I've been really frustrated that there's been a lot of things like in Utah. Something that Republicans have been doing, like straight up, they're doing it. It's like, I don't know who does it. I don't know who's in charge of this sort of stuff, but they're definitely trying to make it harder to vote in Democrat areas. 100%. Like if before they moved to like there was only one in the county, it was like where I live, you go to the local elementary school and there's like a zero line and you just go through so quickly, right? But then if you're in a Democrat area with a dense population, then instead of creating more polling places to account for more people, they make less. There's less polling locations, and so you have to sit and wait in line for like 3 hours to vote. 100% they're doing that, yeah. Why don't they incorporate blockchain in voting? I don't know. It seems this is kind of along this other thing that we complain about all the time. There's all of these amazing blockchain use cases. Why don't we actually see them or hear more about them if they exist? Apparently, for like ticketing, there is a cryptocurrency project out there that has to do with that, but like it's not super popular. Using the blockchain in voting, that's like kind of using DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, right? So you should be able to use the DAO to vote, but I've never heard of anywhere doing that. So I don't know why they don't do it. Is there some sort of roadblock to overcoming the technology? Something that they got to figure out with it? Or is it just that people don't care enough to do it? Or is it because the technology really just can't do it? I don't know. Future Stranger 71 says there's an onslaught of people typing in all caps recently on Twitter. Do we need a bigger font to get the message across? Or maybe some Xanax? I don't know. Maybe we just shouldn't use Twitter anymore. What if there was a mechanism built into Discord that allowed for more Twitter-like types of conversations that were cross-server about a subject? That would be a way better way of doing things, at least for us in trading, than the current way of doing things. They don't know Twitter. I mean, I keep the tweet deck up and I'll tweet regularly, but I've never really liked Twitter, to be honest. I've always found it difficult to build an audience or get anything done on Twitter. Twitter were gone tomorrow, the entire dynamic of social and political trends across the planet would shift in less than a month, maybe. One has to wonder what are the social consequences of limiting people's communication to such short messages? Is Twitter leading people towards certain types of behaviors that are negative for them? Seems like they could be. Voting should only be in person. You slip your finger in ink and vote with that finger smudging section, just like in African countries. So no hand and no vote, just a thought. Jeez. You ever seen that movie? What is it called? Blood Diamond? Yeah, it's Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio in it. Oh, I find that movie and what went on in that country so fascinating. It's scary. Can you imagine just one day people drive in on trucks and start shooting everybody and then cart off all of your kids to make them child soldiers? Absolute insanity. What happened in that country? It's crazy. I used to discount the impact of Twitter until I remembered that's where marketing and research firms get their metadata from. Maybe. Social media companies control the conversation and sentiment. Companies and political campaigns by ipso facto. Social media shapes reality. The more ludicrous social media is, the more ludicrous reality becomes. Okay, but here's my argument. I think that YouTube has a larger impact on the general internet culture than any other social media website. I could be wrong. Obviously, I think that because I'm a YouTube creator, but I think that YouTube is the strongest and most influential platform. That if you want to do like keyword research and everything, obviously you want to go to different platforms and stuff, but researching that stuff on YouTube is an absolute must. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't go and research those keywords on YouTube too. And I think that a lot of the problems that we face nowadays, it's very clear that some of it has to do with the way that YouTube works, right? So people these days are falling for all sorts of scams and things, and that's because the YouTube algorithm basically trains you to everything to be clickbait. Like everything is clickbait, and it trains you to filter through clickbait. That's like all YouTube is. It's clickbait thumbnails. It's really stupid in my opinion, right? And all of the subjects that are kind of like taboo, I think that the main reason why they become taboo is because it's not just Twitter, but YouTube. If you talk about those sorts of things, you get throttled. I think that YouTube has a bigger impact than Twitter. I think that Twitter is mostly just for the media and the elite bubble. And I don't think that the average person really gives a shit about Twitter. And that's always been the case. Like that's always been the way that I've seen it is Twitter is a bunch of, famous people jerking each other off. But again, I probably feel that way because I've had a really hard time building an audience on Twitter. Like even if I go on there and I participate with other creators and comment on threads and stuff, like the growth on Twitter is just so slow. I'm going to put that much work into it. I'm just going to put it into YouTube, right? Once you become famous, then yeah, they just come to you, and then Twitter's probably great. I'm not saying the average person gives a crap about Twitter. I'm saying that the media and elite get their sentiment data from Twitter, and it funnels downstream to regular people. Maybe yes. It's definitely the case that the media and elite are more focused on Twitter than other platforms. I don't think that the media and elite really have very big Facebook pages, for instance. I don't know. Like Facebook is another kind of interesting issue though, because we kind of undermined ourselves with Facebook, right? Because it was like, oh, this is a great platform to advertise and get the word out, and everybody has a page. So what should you do? You should try and make your Facebook page as big as possible. Treat it like MySpace. So I have like 1,000 friends on Facebook. Okay, like in real life, I have like 10 friends. Okay, so vast majority of the people on my Facebook page, personal Facebook page, are don't really know who I am, and the only reason that we're friends is because it was advantageous for promoting raves, So then what did Facebook do? They limited how much your stuff could reach, and then Facebook wasn't fun anymore. Probably the elite don't have very big Facebook pages like that though, because they were always on Twitter. Twitter does need a reckoning. I thought that it would be direct, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see next month. It sounds like it's going to come out next month. We'll see what they got. I've seen a couple of things that make me a little bit discouraged about that, but maybe they pull it off. from by the way, that earlier note about the short interest in DWAC, it kind of, that alone maybe would make it a reasonable trade, right? I don't think that I would take as much risk with it as last time, though. Oh, Bitcoin has been doing some stuff this morning. When we got in here, it was kind of looking a little dire in Bitcoin, and they've recovered all of that since then. So Bitcoin on the move up here. I suppose if interest rates are backing off, that Bitcoin could recover a little bit. The S&P 500 is still just a chop fest, huh? Hey, Big Toasty, how are you doing? The next logical step is whether or not children can consent. Oh, totally. Because if you can't consent to sex, then how can you consent to a sex change surgery? So, some people will start to say that children should be able to consent. Yep, probably. But it would be incremental though, right? It wouldn't be like pedophilia. It would be like kids can consent. Well, I guess kids already can consent to having sex with each other. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't want to talk about it. It's a slippery slope. A slippery slope is a fallacy, but it sure seems to happen a lot too, doesn't it? Tomorrow I have a job interview as a software development with zero experience and I'm scared. Oh, okay. So what kind of a company is it? What kind of a company are you interviewing for? If current trends continue, assuming we live average lifespans, it will leave. Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. I hope that doesn't happen. Where I was trying to go with that is there will be incremental steps, but like I'm not quite sure what the incremental steps would be. Kind of seems like they've already kind of taken out everything that would be between here and there. MMAT short interest. Lucid still has a lot. Hertz still has a lot. Oh yeah. GameStop. Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So GameStop has 12% short interest. So GameStop's short interest is is a little bit less than DWAC's, right? The fun part is you likely won't be streaming anymore no, I will still be here, Uzi. We might have to move to another platform at some point, but hey, we're gonna stick around. Okay, creating software for hotels and gastronomy. Delivery system payments. Okay, so is it a website? Do you know what technologies they use? Or what programming languages they use? An SQL. Okay, so SQL is an easy one to take on. And in SQL, if you know what all of the different types of joins are, then they'll think you're a database god. SQL one is easy. React. Okay, so if it is going to be React, MongoDB. Oh, I love MongoDB. If it's going to be React, the thing that puts you ahead with React is understanding the concurrency problems, right? So, what you want to go and read up on is like promises and async requests in JavaScript and React. And that will be the kind of the hard technical, like if you understand that stuff, nothing else they're going to ask you is all that complicated. course, there's probably other people that already have experience in React, but hey, you got the interview, so. So they have been able to eat into the 18 when they pull. You can see there when they pull it back, and there's only 2,800 in there. Then maybe a little bit of nibbling, but I don't know. It might take a bit to make another move up, but we'll see. Oh, they're using Angular. Well, this is the same thing, right? Oh, well, okay. So one thing is that you are going to have to know TypeScript. Do you know TypeScript? So TypeScript is basically like they tried to take JavaScript and make it a more formal programming language. So a lot of people really like to use TypeScript because it's more proper. So if you don't know TypeScript, okay. So if you don't know TypeScript, I would definitely go and do a primer on that. It's something that you can do in a day. Go and learn TypeScript. And again, it will anything that has to do with JavaScript, TypeScript, web programming, understanding concurrency issues is kind of the more advanced stuff. So if you understand what a promise is and what async await does and all of that sort of stuff, and this is all stuff that you can just go online and review, that will probably go a long ways towards helping you in the interview. Oh, I never clicked on this Salim. What do you got? Hey, is that a buy? I can't tell from your little screenshots if those are green or red. 2K. Kind of started our website with React. Yeah, you're probably on a good path. Why do you retract all the messages? You don't have to do that. Man, the S&P 500 sure is choppy. This day has been going by a lot more slowly than I realized. It's only 8:13? Really? You're paranoid. They're gonna find out that you went and got help from speculator Seth, and no, we're good. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little. I really thought that by this point the S&P 500 would be either up or down 10 points. It's not. Well, it has been long enough. We might be able to turn our camera back on. You want to try the camera again? Let's see. What do we get? No, that's not going to work. It's only 1% battery. Sorry, you probably got a bunch of dropped frames when I did that. Maybe I need to keep the old camera up there and use that one for that and use the other one for the mainstream. Or I guess I just need to get a dummy battery. Yeah, we'll just get a dummy battery. Easy fix. Easy peasy. That will never happen again. Well, let's scratch this ES trade since it's been, how long have I been in it? Almost an hour and it's at break even. That's probably not a good trade. So let's see what happens. Maybe the E-mini pukes here and the treasuries push up further. Could that happen? Okay. Hey, look. So 18 so there was a 12K at 18, but then 18 half the liquidity pulled out of the way for the most part. I mean, 2000 is still decent, but it wasn't the 4K. And you can see the liquidity stacking up behind it pretty healthy too, up to 3,000 quite quickly. So, well, okay, they got slammed down there, but this is pretty healthy activity for the moment. Yeah, bid at 18 is pumping itself up to look all scary. Oh, the 5-year came down there a little bit. Did that? Yes, it flattened a little bit. So this whole move up, we've been steepening. And maybe now you're seeing some of the steepeners take a little bit of profit in the 5-year. 57. Should have taken this trade with more contracts, but I've just been way too chill about it. I don't know. Like sometimes I'll sit here and like when I'm super relaxed and just like, okay, whatever kind of mode, it's like we'll do okay. Sometimes it do poorly, sometimes it do okay. But then like when I get in like go mode, it's like I'll overextend, I'll do dumb things. Not quite sure how to deal with those kinds of issues. Because it's really hard to tell if it's really me or if it's just kind of random and I'm just kind of only noticing when that happens, you know? Let's see here. Brannigan Barrett says, our bullish gold trade is now complete. M15 chart for reference. Note the access points for this. Log them in the SRM tool. Note the exit on the final candle. We exit on volume surge as that likely indicates short-term top. Add the key characteristics. Well, oh, I did not see that gold since the open has really taken off. Some decent behavior there. Well, shall we come and look at our portfolio? They absorb at 82. I'll do a little. Okay, in the ES. Look, they're kind of they're pushing. Okay, our portfolio is doing much better today. Unfortunately, that nice spike up in oil came back a bit, and so we're not making all that much in oil. In fact, most of these positions are just kind of offsetting each other. Although it's a good move, I got a 6% rise in silver for me today. That certainly is good. And what about Goldman? Goldman down 0.64% today. Okay. Interesting. So what I'm seeing here, obviously today kind of looks like a trend up day in the treasury, but at least for the moment, a short-term top maybe. What do you think about SMB Capital? I don't know much about them at all. Well, how do you feel about Tradeovate? I think that they're okay. They just got bought out by Ninja Trader, so I don't know if my current opinion of them really matters anymore. They had an interesting idea, was never something that ever really tickled my fancy. I do know that a lot of the combines got in with Tradeovate, and so a lot of people were using Tradeovate because of that. But now you're just going to get me yapping on again about how I dislike combines and why don't people just trade their own account? Are you afraid to trade your own money? that maybe says something about your strategy and that maybe you shouldn't actually be doing it. But there's nothing wrong with them, with Trade of 8. Really, the way that I would approach it is like, what platform do you want to use, right? I don't know. Maybe I care too much about the software because I'm a software guy, but SMB is legit, I think, but they trade more equities. Yeah. Well, like my understanding about, here's what I do know about SMB Capital. They have like a training program, and you go through their training program, and then you can potentially trade for them, right? Um, I doesn't I've never seen anything to suggest that if you went through SMB Capital that you were more or less likely to be successful, right? So that's why I don't pay too much attention to it. Okay, so S&P 500 is probing the downside here. No. I've never spoken to anybody that's gone through SMB Capital, I don't think. I guess the thing is I think that when you think about like a prop shop like that, right? I think the idea that we have in our heads is that would be a place where there are successful traders and I can learn from them and pick up their experience and have a much higher chance of being able to be successful and so forth. And I think that the unfortunate truth is that that just doesn't exist in prop trading anymore. Like it just doesn't exist at all in prop trading anymore. Um, the prop traders used to be market makers, right? They used to be doing arbitrage essentially and playing the book, and the robots destroyed them. So whatever prop shops that you have out there now are like completely new things. So I wouldn't think of a prop shop as like this professional shop with this long history of experience or anything. I would think more of a prop shop as a collection of retail traders that maybe has recently been successful, right? Um, so I don't think that they really have that. There's any place that really has the long decades of deep knowledge of markets beyond what retail traders have available and are familiar with. Like the only place that exists anymore is like at hedge funds and banks. So that's why I kind of just ignore 'em. How can you exit and not exist at the same time? They are not famous for their funding programs nor for their education. That's not. I don't know. I don't know that much about them. I'm just saying that people tend to the tendency is going to be SMB. That's I'm having a hard time trading, but if I go to SMB Capital, then I'll learn the thing that I need to learn to be successful. Probably not. Dean Hadley has reviewed thousands of trading. Yeah. Beyond hedge funds, not retail, not the same liquidity requirements. Well, no, but hedge funds are more likely to be using the kinds of strategies and information that at least we here in this channel do, where we're trying to utilize informational edges on the market and so forth. Because if they were doing arbitrage, then they would be an HFT firm, right? Banks don't scalp. Well, they do arbitrage. There is still market making activity at banks, and the banks will use what they know about market making activity to assist them in executing their trades. So when you set a DOM up, it will start automatically arbitraging the market for you, and then you're executing on top of that. So, but even then, like, if you really want that kind of knowledge, what I would do is I would just start reading research about market microstructure and quantitative finance instead, and do it yourself, right? Because you're just doing what you would do at a hedge fund. That's what they do. That's some high tech shit. Sure, when I think about it, it doesn't seem high tech, but it really is actually quite crazy, right? A DOM that yes, 100%. Well, you realize, so when you look at this, right, and there's like 3,000 at every level, right? And then today there's almost 4,000 at every level. One of the things I was trying to get across in my order flow videos is that this happens, and I know that it happens, is that if one of Goldman Sachs clients wants to execute that day, then what they do is they come in and they say, okay, I'm going to come in and I'm going to put 500 lots on at every price. And that's why you end up seeing the liquidity levels rise on certain days. It means that some of those, big players or somebody executing for a hedge fund perhaps are involved in the market. It's part of why I've just kind of sat back and let this trade just kind of go. So, yes, and part of why they do what they do is because it gets them a spot in line, right? Like, that's why when it ticks up, well, it didn't do that this time, but when it ticks up, you almost always see a certain amount cancel on the next offer, right? Because those were the guys that were just in line for if they possibly wanted to execute there in the future. They're saving a spot in line. So if there's any chance of them getting executed, then they cancel their orders because they never actually wanted to execute. They just wanted the spot in line. And now that it's there, they don't want the spot anymore, right? That's the first level of it. And then the second level of it is that they will arbitrage it based off of like the 6J and so forth, right? So it will, if this ticks down and this one doesn't, and it's in line with the direction that you're taking it, because like say you're buying and there's any kind of selling there, then it will take the fills and it will do it automatically for you. If the 6J ticks down, then it will cancel them. And yes, and you'll see it on your DOM. And when what it looks like is it looks just like our DOM, except for there are orders placed at every price, and the orders are being placed and pulled automatically for you. And if you want to see a DOM that has those features, Ready is a DOM that does that. Ready is a trading platform created originally by Goldman Sachs and spun off that is intended for hedge funds and that has those kinds of features built into it, like auto pull and auto stack. Information plus order flow for precision. That's what we're trading in SM. I don't know. I have used NinjaTrader 8 before. It recently switched to AMP, so I'm using TT now, but it's pricey. Yeah. Okay. So if you're on AMP, so first of all, the platform that I use and I like is Jigsaw Day Trader, right? Jigsaw Day Trader is great, and Jigsaw now has charts. And as long as you're not doing, the reason I still use NinjaTrader 8 is because I've got all of these lovely indicators and things that I've written that I really just can't trade without, especially like the dollar index and the spreads and all of that sort of stuff. And Jigsaw doesn't have that stuff yet. Okay. But for your average person, Jigsaw is more than sufficient. Okay. If you want to go a step beyond that, you still want to have like, good programming, big ecosystem, but you don't want to use NinjaTrader, then I would look at Sierra charts. And then another option available to you more recently is that a lot of these brokers are creating their own platforms. Like EdgeClear has EdgeClear X. There's a couple of them that are based on MotiveWave, and those platforms you'll get good order flow stuff, but they're much more cheaper. They're a lot cheaper. Man, I needed to get out there. That sucks. What happened there? I'm not too sure, but since I feel like I don't know what's going on, I'm just going to try and take my profits because I just lost like 8 ticks, unfortunately. I was kind of trying, I wanted to get 20. They never gave me an opportunity to do that. Are we even going to be able to get anybody to cross it? Well, somebody definitely sold it. Look, there's an iceberg on the other direction now. I kind of feel like we just got rug pulled. Thanks. Check your data feed. Well, is there a data feed that you would think is no good? We've got that CQG versus Rhythmic video. I got to tell you, TT is the best. TT really is the best, but it is pricey. Well, actually, it's not. The basic version of TT is not actually much more than most other platforms. Basic version of TT. But the version that has all the cool stuff. Well, look, they let me out, and now they're continuing back down. Oh, man. Yes, but I don't want to get sued. Oh, man. Now you got to tell me. You tell me privately which feed is really bad and why. So we need to know. We need to know. You know what else we need to know? I need to know more about something I kind of realized that I don't know anything about is what kind of special considerations you might need to make if you are trading outside of the US. I don't think that generally speaking, there's too much complication there aside from what rules your specific country has, but there are some small differences and I wish I knew more about that. All that sophistication that banks have in research studies on to underperform the S&P. Well, okay, so let's remember your banks aren't hedge funds, right? So, well, this is actually an interesting thing. So, Goldman Sachs apparently lost quite a bit of money on some of its investments. So, like, something that will happen is like they'll do a deal where they do a particular service for somebody, like they help them carry out a transaction, and part of their payment will be in shares of the stock or something like that, right? And then they hold those shares of stocks as like an investment portfolio. So apparently Goldman Sachs lost some money on their stocks in Q4. So, which is a little concerning. Yeah. But anyways, that's what happened. But generally speaking, the banks do not want to speculate. Okay? They want to make markets. So the investment banks like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and so forth are all about trying to, execute transactions for other people and catch the spread. Okay. They're not trying to speculate. That's why I point to hedge funds, or in our particular world, CTAs. Those are kind of a little bit more like what we try to do with speculating, right? They are trying to find some sort of an edge that they can find, whether it's technical or informational, and execute on that, right? So for the hedge funds, all that sophistication and research studies only to underperform the S&P 500. Yep, it's true. But you know what? The deeper I get into this, the more I start to feel like we as retail traders have built the institutions up in our minds to be something that they really aren't. Don't get me wrong, the professionals have a huge advantage over us. But the things that we want to know, that we're sitting here like, if I could just figure out this one thing, if I could just figure out this, like, when a trade goes my way, when is the most appropriate time for me to take profits on it, so that I can both let it run and not have it come back on me and give up, half of my profits like I just did. Actually, it wasn't half of my profits. I was trying. I lost $5 of what I was trying to get. Okay, right. And we think that, the banks know how to do that, or the hedge funds know how to do that. And I think that the reality is, from everything that I continue to learn about this, is that I don't think they actually do. I think that, generally speaking, they're dealing with issues that are so different from what we do that it's like it doesn't even cross over very well. Like, if you're a hedge fund or you're a bank doing execution, optimal execution of large portfolio transactions with Olmgren and Chris is much more pertinent to you than anything that a retail trader does, right? So we think that they have this knowledge that they don't have. So if that's the case, then I think the reality is that there is some research that could be done on retail trading strategies that just never gets done, right? Like, why doesn't anybody go through and just look at the math of trading a single contract versus trading three to five contracts, and where your profits and targets are and everything? Like, because we went and we made a spreadsheet about that, and we showed that really, when you're trading multiple contracts, really what you're doing is you're manipulating your risk, right? But I've never seen a research study about that. I've looked and I can't find any. It's interesting pointing this out. Foreign trader scalp making over $1 million live real money without using order flow. I have to think there's a possible lag from Chicago. Maybe. Well, like, that's, again, the thing is that, like, so I don't get me wrong. Order flow is, in my opinion, an absolute must. Okay. Why is order flow so important? You do not understand what is actually going on if you're not watching the order flow. So this move that we just had on the way down, it was a rug pull. There's some good volume on it, but there was way more traded up in here in this, like, 17 to 18 range. Look, 50,000 contracts traded at all three of those prices. And then all of a sudden it just careened through there with only about 2,000 contracts each very, very quickly. It sounds to me, no news. Governor Bailey, we are witnessing a rather protracted resolution of Evergrande, and contagion is being kept under control. Could be based off of Bank of England's Bailey. I mean, that's kind of suggests like a piece of news to me. But from an order flow perspective, let's call it a rug pull, okay? Right? If you're just looking at the price, there's no way that you can see that. There's no way that you can see that. So order flow is necessary to understand what is actually happening. Is it predictive? I'm sure that you can find aberrations in order flow. I'm actually finding that one of the things that's really interesting to me is that it's actually easier to predict the orders in the order flow than you might think, because of like autocorrelations and things like that. But it's difficult to necessarily know, for me at least, how the market makers will react to it. And that's why you'll see me, I'll get in a certain direction and I'll almost always have positive flow going with me, but sometimes I just don't get anything out of it, right? And then it head fakes on me and washes me out. So it's because of market making activity adds a lot of randomness to it. But as the sole basis for a retail trader edge, I haven't been able to make that work. We tried really super hard for many, many years, didn't we? And we had some good trading, but overall, in the end, I don't think that really worked. And when we changed our focus to be much more about looking for informational edges and just trading the news and so forth, we've done a lot better. And when there's actual news going on, and it's not a Friday, because Friday always seems to screw us up. But when there's actual real news going on and real reasons to trade, we do really well. We did real well today, trading that. It was kind of a more technical edge, but really it was what we knew about options and that bounce off of 127, right? And we utilized that. Order flow can be a fake out, yeah. There's always someone on the other side of the trade. It takes 4 contracts for you to move point. You can just, they can just pull their orders. So I don't think that order flow on its own is necessarily always going to work for you. But now on the split side, if you're very selective and you have really good information sources and so forth, could you make money purely off of an informational edge? That's what Congress does. That's what all those congressmen have been doing, right? So everybody tells you to follow the senators and everything, but wouldn't you just rather know the stuff that the senators know, right? So kind of puts things in perspective, doesn't it? I just realized that I'm looking at the camera and that the camera's not on right now. It's so dumb. How quickly does it charge from the USB? Let's see. If we turn it on now. It does not charge very quickly at all. Very interesting. Still with me? Okay, yeah, no, we didn't drop any frames that time. But you probably heard that weird noise and maybe thought something was wrong with your computer. Well, man, I really want to know what happened there. It didn't come through on my news squawk. There's got to be some there's got to be some news there on that. Uncharged January 6th instigator Ray Epps to appear before a House committee on Friday. What? Okay. Boris Johnson faces Tory mutiny over Partygate as rebellious MPs demand leadership vote. Yes, I heard that there was no confidence thing was probably coming today. NATO signs deal with Ukraine to deepen cyber cooperation. No, I don't use Price Clock. They gave it for me to trial so that I know more about it. For me, I don't think that it makes sense because like here on the stream and having all that stuff going off all the time and it conflicts with the alerts that I already have set up. But I was very impressed with it. I was very impressed with it. Oh, by the way, I turned off my. Oh no, I have it. I just haven't heard it. We just haven't had a chirp in a while. That's all. I was really impressed with it and the way that it works. I think they could make it better, but you know they have room to grow. Basically, from risk reward perspective, does trading 120% stock moves in a day better than trading futures? So, trading stocks is there's a lot of things that are different from it, right? In many respects, trading futures is more difficult than trading stocks. But in many respects, they're just not comparable, right? Like when you're trading stocks, oh man, like the amount of research that you've got to do is just insane because there's so many different companies out there. You can't follow every company, and you're going in the morning and you've got to figure out like which stocks are going to move based off of what you know and stuff like that. Like it's hard. There's a lot of research and equity traders that are doing some sort of a prop sort of a thing, you know, they're going to spend a lot of time investigating that. Whereas with us in futures, we can focus much more on the macro, which has its advantages in that respect, right? But if you've got those informational edges in equities and so forth, I believe that trading it in stocks is easier. So you can manage your risk a little bit better. Like you can just decide how much you want to risk. And you don't have to, you're not limited by the minimum tick size of the instrument because stocks is smaller anyways. And retail stock traders are really dumb and do really dumb things and, you know, take trades in really inadvisable situations. So it does seem like there's some more technical inefficiencies available for you in stocks than there are for futures. So, I don't know. Man, I want to know because there's something. Hmm. So when I look at the charts, S&P 500 is declining, but it was kind of already declining right at 8:30. So let's go back here. So I don't see any news here. Was there a piece of news that wasn't listed on our calendar? Because something definitely happened there, man. Wednesday? No? Oh, it's the 19th Wednesday. There we go. 8:30. Oh, CB leading index from the Australian dollar. That's it. Man, I gotta get. There's definitely something out there. It's not on Twitter. We're probably gonna find out later that there was something that we missed. But um when that happened, not only did the interest rates rise, you know, a good basis point or two very quickly, but and we saw a correlation with the 6J, but we also saw Bitcoin decline, and the S&P 500 kind of accelerated its decline a little bit. So there's definitely something going on. As did some of the commodities come back a little bit, although oil still looks great. Oil still looks great. Touching $87 a barrel now. You can overtrade with it easily. stocks can go. I think one of the things is the more you trade, the more chances you have to make mistakes. Is like really what it comes. It's really what it comes down to. With stocks, I've done okay. Like I've made a lot of really bad decisions, but overall, I've made money with stocks over the past few months, and I credit a lot of that to not taking very many trades in stocks. Like I'm usually focused over here, and then I'm only taking a trade in the stocks when there's something that's just seems like such a good trade that I just can't ignore it. Like this oil trade. Or when DWAC first came out. DWAC still is kind of looks like a good one for a squeeze target, but I don't know if I really want to play squeezes right now. And it kind of makes me wonder with where oil is at, why USO is not up as much. Oh, now it's getting a little better. Okay. God, I'm wondering where oil is going to be by the options expiration on Friday. This is getting because it just seems like it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. When I saw that there was that pipeline busted last night, I was like, oh boy. Well, I don't know what happened there. Must have been some news. Wish I knew. Is there anything else we want to talk about real quickly here before we go? Make sure if you haven't watched it that you go and watch yesterday's video. Well, actually, for that matter, you should go and watch all of the order flow videos. This is I'm really put a lot of work into these, trying to make this like the best stuff I've got. It's not absolutely everything, I know, of course, but in terms of order flow, I think it's some really good information that you're not going to find anywhere else. So here I'm going to put you the playlist here for it. So if you haven't watched those videos, make sure you watch those videos, leave some comments, ask questions and so forth. You guys have been leaving questions on those comments, and it's helped out those videos so much. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. We got one more video on this where we're going to talk about the stuff like liquidity holes and so forth. It's going to be like a really brief overview though, so maybe you guys want me to go into more depth on one of them, and maybe we actually go into the math on one of them. But then after that, we're going to do the inelastic markets video, and that one needs to be like, that one, I want that to be like our magnum opus. I hope I can do such a good job at it that it's like my magnum opus, because I think that is like one of the most important things that you could possibly understand about markets, is that they're inelastic. So we shall see. Says the impressions click-through rate is it maybe actually a little bit lower than normal. Overall, it's not quite what I want it to be. Mostly subscribers watching so far still too. Still not bad for the first day on that video. So, and it really is really solid information, I think so. And also remember that we do have a 20-year bond auction today, right? So I don't know what that's going to mean. Maybe the Treasuries take another big hit and the interest rates rise on them again here when the 20-year auction happens. But for now, something happened, but I don't know what it was. So, and sorry about the camera. That should be the title. How would I put that in the title though? Man. Was it just the goofiest face? So let's see here. Where are they at? That's about where I got out before, right? Yes, it is. I got out at 861. So I suppose it's possible to go short again, but I don't. I'm happy with. There's been some of the moves where I've been like, oh, I really missed it, but I'm glad that I haven't been trading outside of the stream lately because I start to stress myself out when I do that. Okay. I'm just gonna put camera fail. All right, guys. I will see you tomorrow. In the meantime.